And we are live, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
Going
My
on.
name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films. And today we have on the live discussions with Diamond Rivera, we have two amazing guests, two people I consider great friends. We have Joshua Burgos and Amber Rivard from Milwaukee of Dance Studio. Thank you guys so much again for coming.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And today, the topics at hand that we are going to discuss and learn from are really, really important, very imperative, especially our dance scene to understand, because we also realize that the topics that are going to be talked about not only deal with Milwaukee's dance scene, but it deals with many, many dance scenes. And I think the information that you guys are going to give us is really going to be imperative. It's really going to be informative, and it's going to help a lot of the schools that we still have, because we realize nowadays that unfortunately a lot of the dance companies and dance studios are no longer around because of the profit hits from COVID.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, I really would love to know from you guys' perspective, before we get into this interview, how have you guys been doing out there in Milwaukee?
It's been 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
6, 7 weeks
Yeah.
we've been open. So, if you're asking about like our studio, like in
Just
Milwaukee,
studio, but mainly just you guys in general. Like, how is the safety? How are just like the focus on COVID? Is it kind of, has it hit the community hard, or has it been kind of a minimal effect?
for our specific area of Milwaukee, we're in the Lower East Side, so we're in the downtown area,
Mhm.
and everything's like heavy foot traffic. You can go to your barber shop. Just on this main strip alone, there's like 9 barber shops and salons, and there's a ton of bars and restaurants, and all that is this whole strip where we live. It's just heavy foot traffic, and that's gone now. Like it's slowly opening back up, but before, like, you could go any day of the week and it was busy. Like there's a ton of walking and a ton of driving, and now it's inching back up slowly. And we have a mask mandate that went out for Milwaukee, I think, last week. So
Yeah.
that's just for the city of Milwaukee. We have that here, but outside of our, like, the city area, it's almost completely opposite. So there's a lot of tension in the greater, like, city area that we have.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I mean, you're definitely going to get very, very deep into the concerns that the Milwaukee dance community does have. But before we get to that, I would let's start all the way from the beginning, and let's start all the way from where both of your dance journeys started.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to start first?
Sure. I can start with mine. So I started dance when I was 6. I did ballet, tap, and jazz. And back then, when I was young, like, I had a best friend that was in dance. I originally did gymnastics, and then she left gymnastics to do dance. So I was like, I want to be with my best friend, so I'm just going to do what she's doing. I didn't really think anything of it. And then a couple years later, she quit, and I stuck with dance up until I was 16. So it was really expensive for my parents, so they could only afford to get me through my first 2 years of high school for dancing. So I had to kind of make a decision after that if I wanted to, like, dip into my college fund and keep dancing or not. And at that time, when I was in high school, I thought I was going to become an architect, and I already had my career figured out back then. So dance was more of a hobby for me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll give up my favorite thing in life, and just, focus on college and my grades. So I did ballet, tap, and jazz for 10 years. And I really missed it, and I wanted to get back into dancing. So when I went to college, for pretty much all of my art credits, I took as many dance classes as I could to still kind of stay active.
Mhm.
And that's how I got into salsa. I was always interested in Latin dance, but where I grew up out in the suburbs, Latin dance was kind of seen as a ballroom category that was only for people that were of retired age or older. So my
Mm.
interest started when I was a teenager, but when I was looking into it after I had quit ballet and everything, there wasn't a community of people that were, close to my age that were doing it. So I was like, oh, maybe back then I'm like, maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe I'm too young to be liking this. That's honestly kind of what I thought. And it's just because I was in the suburbs and there weren't as many studios that, focused on that style of dance that I was looking for. So in college, that's really where it opened my eyes. And that's actually when I met Josh. So when I was in college, I took a couple semester-long salsa classes. And what was really great is that we always had to write papers and just kind of reflect on what we were learning. So one of my papers was focused on going out into the community in Milwaukee. And that's pretty much what changed my life from that point moving forward. So I went out to like a local bar that was having a free lesson. So that was really popular back then. And that's when I got to know about the Milwaukee community. And I was just so enticed and invigorated with the amount of like different age ranges that I saw and different races of people all together in one room. It's just something that you don't really see a lot in Milwaukee. So I was just really drawn in by that. Everybody was really welcoming and encouraging, and I just really felt at home. So after going out for a paper and a school project, I was really interested in just getting to know more people within this community here. And that's how I met Josh. So I kept taking classes outside of the college courses that I had, and that's where Josh and I met. So we met at a studio on the other side of town, and we just connected right away. We were really good friends. What I liked about Josh, though, even when we were just good friends, is that he was just as motivated as I was. Like, a lot of people in class were either there for like the hookup to like maybe, like speed dating, switch partners. Right. So I feel like people were kind of there for the hookup, or they were just doing something for themselves, or if they were parents, looking to get away from kids and just have some alone time with like other adults. So it was really cool because when I rotated with Josh, like him and I were always super focused, and we were like, okay, we're going to get this combo, and we'd be checking it with each other. Like, oh, how does it feel? Like, he would just take it serious, and no one else in the class took it serious. So that's kind of how our connection started, is we both really were deeply passionate about what we were learning, number one. And number two, we really cared about the detail, and we were extremely hungry to get better, like from day one. So that's kind of how our friendship built, and then dated 6 months later.
Yeah. Man, so I didn't start at that young with like Amber did, but ironically, it started for me as early as I can remember, like riding in the van of my grandpa, because it was a big thing for us. Like, my grandpa would come pick up like my aunt, my mom, my cousins, and he had a big van. So as early as I can remember, like thinking about like, oh, what kind of music they listen to? They always listen to salsa. They listen to cumbia and some merengue at birthday parties, like New Year's and everything. So I was always there, but I was just like, whatever, like cool. And then when I was in my early 20s, everything changed. I had a breakup, and then I was like, you know what? Like, we were sharing all of our friends, me and my ex, and I was like, I really don't, like, I gotta change something. And my roommate at the time, he was like, well, you got to find something that maybe you've always wanted to do or try out. And I said, yeah, I don't even know what that is. So one day I just like, hey, what if we think I take a salsa class? At that point, he was like fed up with me, I think. Because he's like, you got to get out the house. So he was like, he read it. That was the fastest text I think he sent me at that time. He was like, perfect, do it. I'm like, so I called up to see about the classes. And my first class, I was like super determined. I already was on YouTube figuring out the basic steps, because there's a beginner class and then there's like a level 2 class right afterwards the same night. And I was like, hey, could I take both? And he was like, well, let's see how you do for the first one. And then I was like, cool, like I got it. It was just a basic, and I think it was like a side step. And that was more of a timing class, I think, that I took. But when I stayed for the second one, they were doing partner work, and I was like, this is what I came for.
Yes.
Like, I want to like learn all these moves. So then we rotated, and you could just feel someone's vibe when you like connect with them, their hands, their connection and their energy. And then I was like, yo, who's this? She, since the beginning, she was very cute. Like, she's beautiful, but I wasn't like right away, like, what's your number? I was
like that.
I was like, you want to, like, hey, we should keep dancing and stuff. So it started there, like when I was in my early 20s. And then I kind of felt like a fool, because I was like, dang, I could have known all about this when I was a kid,
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that it started in either way. And it was classes. I would say for me, like half of my journey was just like the behind the scenes. I've always kind of been the behind the scenes guy. And if we go out to the nightclub we used to have here called the Warehouse.
Okay.
This place had 2 separate rooms. And
it was lit.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like 3,000 square foot of like dance floor and one side, 2,000 another side roughly. And like you have 300, 400, 500 people there depending on the Saturday. But my point is that like behind the scenes, like, yeah, I was so motivated to like get better that I got done dancing with someone on a Saturday night at the club and I'm like, shoot, like, I need more moves. So I would go in the bathroom and I would go on YouTube. I'll go on like the stall with the door and everything. And I would screen record a video that I had saved, and then I would slow-mo, like pause.
Oh, you would like learn the moves and then literally go right back out and then try to.
And I knew myself, so I'm like, you know what? Just pick out 2 moves. So I'm like, and then I remember one time this one dude was like knocking, so I'm like, hey, almost done. So
the secret's out now, guys.
So I was like, you know what? I gotta get it because like we only had like Tuesday lessons, but yeah, that was me just early 20s taking dance classes, and then we pretty much for that summer for 6 months we hung out almost every single day.
Yeah.
And guarantee we were dancing like as much as we could, and we started taking private lessons from like our first mentor, and we were like, how do we scrape up $25 each because we were both kind of tired. So when we went to that private lesson, this is gold. Like we're gonna absorb everything.
Well, what's great is we met, around like March-ish of that year. Well, 8 years ago.
No, it was like February because I remember seeing your birthday and you were at the club, and then your friend was like, yeah, she just turned 20. And I'm like, how did she get in here?
That was the great thing about when I was 21, 7 years ago, before I was even 21 actually, is that, you could get away with fake IDs and go out. And nowadays, if you're not of age and you're trying to, get involved in the scene, at least in Milwaukee, it's almost impossible. And we'll see how things, of course, with COVID, but everything was pretty much at like a bar. So I luckily had a friend that found a fake ID on the floor somewhere and just gave it to me, and it worked. I think they knew it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
But it still worked for me to get in. But I'm honestly really grateful for that. So a little bit, just quickly, like background, just for me and my heritage. I'm white and I'm Native American, and my family really doesn't talk about the Native American side, even though it's something that we're proud of. There's not a lot of like sharing of our history and our roots, and only a small sector of the family knows this information, but it's not something that's really like talked about or highlighted a lot. And so growing up for me, a really big influence in my life was Spanish class, because I went to a Catholic grade school. My parents were very like low middle class, so being able to go was a big deal, but we were very sheltered and we weren't really exposed to just a lot of culture and just what the world is really like. We were really sheltered. So Spanish class was my biggest passion, all of like grade school, middle school, and even high school, because I really loved being exposed to other countries that spoke Spanish and learning about their food and their culture. And my point being is that my family never really had cultures or traditions, or at least things that I felt like I connected with. I always felt like very outside of my family's traditions. Like, not that I was ashamed of it, but I just never really felt like I fit in. I really feel like people understood me, and like I love dancing, and it would just be like, oh, Amber's that dance kid, she just really likes dance. But being able to be a part of a bigger community where it's food and music and language, and it's physical as well, and just being able to explore that was huge for me. So I feel like this part of dance, getting into it in college, just kind of connected all of childhood for me with just learning about different cultures and things like that, and dance kind of being another puzzle piece that really helped make me feel like I'm more connected with people that I can relate to, even though I'm not Latina at all. Like I feel most connected to the Latinx culture for sure. So it's really been a big part of my life for the last 8 years. Yeah.
Diamond, I had a quick question.
Yeah,
how do we share this? Is it on which page on Facebook? Because I kept peeping a little bit online, and I'm trying to like share to the studio page. How do I do that?
Well, this is going through the Diamond DR Films Rivera page, and I also have it's live streaming on YouTube as well.
Oh, that's cool. You're like everywhere.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I really can say is that from hearing about both of your dance journeys, realizing through going to the same school, just so happening to take the same classes, your paths had crossed, but also realizing that you guys also came from different backgrounds and having just total separate experiences, and realizing that the love for dance and being motivated to actually taking it serious, something you loved. And you said, hey, I want to keep doing this, but you found each other who both had that same motivation to do better, to want better, and to see that how far you guys have come thus far, especially from my first time meeting you guys years ago. I think I think it was Orlando. That was
That's got to be about 4 years ago.
Yeah, we met a long time ago.
Event for it was in Tampa or Orlando?
No, Orlando.
Ray did a fundraiser. We were all there for Alma franchise director training.
That's right.
That was our first director training. So that was a big deal because we had always wanted to go to one, and we could never afford to fly out and step away from the studio since the studio was so new. So yeah, being there was a really big deal. We met great people. So
no, absolutely. And it's amazing to see that from the start of you guys just going to classes and then taking it serious. And as you said, the Milwaukee scene, I don't know how large it is or how large it was at the time when you guys are going in, but for a lot of people, that can be a great thing, but it also can scare a lot of people, because especially when you're in the dance scene that's so small and you're kind of fresh and new and you don't know many people, a lot of people get scared and they kind of just run away from it. But you guys really just honed in and control. And to see, like you were saying, that this Milwaukee dance scene, even though it has a lot of great people that have come out of it, there also are concerns in your scene because, like you said, Milwaukee is known as one of the most segregated cities in our state. And I think that is troubling, but also to know that in the Milwaukee dance scene, the Latin dance scene is not just subject to Latin people. It's people who come from all walks of life. But just to hear about the concerns that the scene has, because there is a segregation aspect that really is eye-opening, because so many people think, oh, you guys have a dance scene, so it must be inclusive. But, that's not always the case.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think our scene has changed a lot in terms of when Josh and I first joined the scene, this was about 8 years ago. And I feel like one of the biggest things for pulling people in is just having places to dance. So the more, bars or venues that you have, the easier it is to, draw in people from different walks of life, because depending on where they live or maybe, what day of the week that this, Latin night is going on, it caters to different people. So back then, you could social dance either 5 or 6 days a week. There was always a place that you could go, which is pretty amazing because now, I mean, even before COVID happened, the numbers every year would just be less and less in terms of opportunities to social dance. And I think that's always what can kind of hurt a scene, is if there's nowhere to social dance and practice. And there's, there's that balance too of, the stereotype of dancers not helping support these venues with paying for drinks or food if there's food there. So just how do you keep it going and make sure people are supporting it, but how do you cater to different neighborhoods to make sure that you are pulling in people from all walks of life? So 8 years ago, I would say the scene was pretty big, probably 300 people strong. Well, I'm saying big from our Milwaukee perspective.
Right.
So we're, I believe, the biggest city in Wisconsin, but still a couple hundred people I know is small compared to other cities, even like Chicago. But the scene did seem really big and strong there. It also felt more united. Like back then, there were a lot of different dance companies, performing, and going to congresses was really on the rise. And like I said, there were places to social dance all the time. And back then we would go out social dancing, in the summer, almost every night, even if you had to work the next morning, it was normal to eat dinner, social dance for an hour or two, maybe promise yourself you're going to leave at 10 and then it's 1 a.m. and you're like, it was a great night. I have to work.
On a Wednesday.
Yeah. Like people did not care about, staying out late. Sometimes the energy would be so contagious. You would just stay out till close and be like, well, I got to work tomorrow. I'm going to pay for that. But, everybody had a really good time. So I think just things have changed. Some businesses closed down or businesses moved locations, or some businesses didn't see the profitability or the continuous support from the community. So they, would have a Latin night maybe for a year or 6 months, and then there'd be nothing for a bit, and then a different bar or different venue would pick it up. So I feel like that's probably one of the biggest issues that we've had, that we've at least seen in our scene. I know our scene is roughly 15 years old. Mm-hmm. So, we came in halfway through if you're comparing to when it started till now. So we only know what we've seen. But I think that's the hardest thing, is just to get the support of everybody to come out. And, people come and go. So there's some people that are always social dancing, or some people that were going hardcore for 5 years and then now they got married and have kids and maybe they don't go out as much anymore. Sure. So you kind of see this overturn of like different generations of people coming into the scene, and it's easier to notice because we're smaller. So, if a place closes down or switches what they offer for Latin night, it does affect the scene dramatically, just because there's not a ton of us.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of helps me transition into understanding now. When did you guys decide, how long did it take you guys in your journey of beginning into kind of the dance world to then becoming studio owners?
So that transition from like taking just like a recreational social dancer to like studio owners, in between that was dance companies for us. We honestly really wouldn't even be looking at studios or even thinking about like doing anything at a studio, maybe even teaching, if it weren't for having our dance company. So before dance company, Amber, when I met her, she did have her dance org at the University of Milwaukee, and she was an officer there. Then she went up to be a president. She was leading the whole thing. And I helped her out a little bit with that, but then
for sure,
people like towards the end, and she was graduate, they were like, you're like, yo, like I remember this one girl, Sarita, she's awesome. Like she's cute personality and everything. She's like, so I came here just to learn some moves. I didn't know we were gonna be performing at places and stuff. Like I don't know why I need a costume. So then we're like, she's like, I think we want a dance company. So then we're like, well, where do we start? We're like, oh, maybe we'll, I don't know where we'll start. So then one day we saw a video on YouTube. We're like, yo, what's this? And we're like, oh, it's Alma Latina. And it was the
was it the Mi Santa?
It was Peligro routine.
Yeah.
From Boston, and it was like a bachata masters event or something. And we're like, oh, and then it says something about like franchises, and we're like, what's this? So then we did Alma franchise for like 4 years in our city. We went from 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, then we eventually had like 4, and we're like, we're paying a lot for studio space. And we were like 2-3 different studios throughout the week. We were like, man, this is so much. It's confusing because sometimes we got to switch places. So we're like, what if we just find our own spot, like a small, like empty warehouse, or something? And we're like, okay, cool. Here's some small places. And then Amber and I were pretty picky. Like we're pretty like particular. Like if we're gonna put our name on something or we're gonna be associated with something, we want to make sure that like it's the best representation of what we're putting forth, So we're like, you know what, like, nah, like this place, no, this place, no. And then I went on Craigslist, and I'm like, what about over here in this neighborhood? There are no dance studios in this neighborhood except for like the biggest one in town.
It was a big risk.
And like we walked up and we're like, there's a big garage door, there's an entrance door off to the side, it's street entrance. We're like, this is cool. Like you can literally walk into the spot and not have to go through stairs and all that. We're like, all right, let's go inside. We went inside, we were sold right away. It was musty, it was moldy, it was like some weird like pink floors, like it was like Pepto-Bismol. Like,
oh my Lord.
The walls were like not white, like the mold like let some white come through. But it had like tall ceilings, like 3 skylights that are like 20 feet by like 10 feet each. So you're just like natural light, and we were just like, yo, this is the spot. And we were all like emotional, like, yeah, this is it. And the owner, he's just like looking at us like, so you want it or what? You know, we're over here like, yeah. So it started because of our dance company. So we wanted to have a home for them. So that way we really wanted them to rehearse and practice on their own, but we felt guilty. It's a lot of times we were like, well, it's like we're saying, go over in studio space. And we already like know that people are like, oh, I can only afford this for tuition. So we're like, let's find our own spot. You pay your dues for the team. Use this whatever studio space you want extra. And that was the point of dance studio in the beginning, was a rehearsal spot for our place, for our team, and then also for other dance companies, maybe somebody that wants to rent it for a class. And that was like for the first 6-8 months, it was like that.
Roughly. And if I could connect the dots. So to Josh's point earlier, for like the little like college group that I had, so what happened with that is that when I took it over, that was when Josh and I had started like hanging out more. And because we were so serious, you know, I kind of ran the org really serious. Like that was my life in college. And it's true, like when you're in college, things are student org, you know, some student orgs, like if it's student government or something, they take it really serious and things are, you know, high strung and very, very organized. But when it's a dance org, people aren't expecting that. So we were running it like it was a business, but people were like, I just want to come through and get it and leave. And we were like, no, we're going to learn like these, you know, steps, and we're going to bring people in from the community to teach us technique. And, you know, we really wanted to do it the right way for how we saw it in our eyes. And people were like, well, then you guys should make this a dance company, not a dance org. So there was that confusion for, you know, what is this? So when I graduated, I knew, number one, the name was Ahora Latin Dance Org, and there was nobody that wanted to take it over. So in all honesty, like that died. Even to this day, like my old college doesn't have any type of like Latinx for dance orgs, at least that I'm aware of. So that hurt a bit, but I wanted to continue doing my thing, but on a more professional level. So that's when we decided, okay, we need to have a dance company. But for us at that time, you know, we were training in Milwaukee, but we're like, well, how do we have a dance company? We're not ready to just come up with our own choreo, which we had for the student work. Like we came up with our own choreo, but we weren't happy with it. We wanted something that just looked better. And at the time, like YouTube 8 years ago was different. So when you would look up, you know, salsa or bachata performance videos, there wasn't as much noise. Like there were only a couple really popular artists that would pop up, and Alma Latina was one of them. And like Josh said, their peligro routine was like groundbreaking. You know, back then nobody had really seen bachata dance that way. They had, you know, like seeing contemporary and ballet and just the way that they have musicality in their dancing. Nobody had really seen that before. And at least in my opinion, you know, there's other amazing dancers out there, but you can always kind of see a little bit of like the Alma style in some other people's style. You know, as they grow as artists, you can see a little bit of where they get their training from. So I would really still attribute a lot of like foundational history for like the movement, especially for bachata for them. So we really looked up to them for that. So when we found out that we could like buy choreo from them and get training, that was kind of our answer, because we knew in Milwaukee we could get some training, but in all honesty, we weren't really happy with what was available to us because it's a small city. So as a city, if your instructors in your city aren't going out there and training and trying to bring that back to your city is just stuck. You only know what your instructors are supposed to do. You know, so for us, we were like, well, let's try out, you know, Alma Latina. And we never planned on having our team for 4 years, but it was an amazing journey because we got to experience doing, I think just two salsa choreos maybe? We did a couple salsa and then heavily bachata choreographies, but it was a good experience because Josh went through having like a men's styling team for a bit. I had a ladies styling team for a bit. We had beginner and intermediate level choreographies with small groups of like 3 couples all the way up to our last season. We did a corazoncito routine, and that was like 28 dancers or something crazy. So it was something that we didn't plan on doing for that long, but it really helped us just become better dancers, just learn a lot about communication and management of people of different backgrounds and ages, because some people were college students. Some people were young professionals. Some people, were in their mid-30s, maybe even parents. So it was an array of people that we worked with, but it definitely helped us figure out what we wanted and what we didn't want, and just how to run our business and how to be better leaders in our community too, because at that time we didn't see ourselves as leaders. We just wanted to have cool choreography to perform, and that was kind of the goal, I would say.
Yeah, and actually because of like pursuing Alma Latina, that's how we met you. We met you in Florida, and then we reconnected with you for their summer festival thing. And so we met you down there, and we connected with you down there. Then we were like, at that time, we were deep. We were like, okay, cool. We like I mentioned before, like when we do something, we try to go all out as much as we can, and we're like, we really want the best experience for our own team here, our Alma team in Milwaukee. We're like, could we possibly help other ones? So then we started like working for Alma, and then here we are, like helping them with running the franchises and stuff, and then doing the media. We really love doing like media, just like you do. Like we love capturing the moment and sharing it, and really getting that out there, even if you weren't there, but feel like you were there.
And I really, really do appreciate that, because what I loved what you were talking about before was you being dancers that had the ability to create a studio, but at the same time, you were still students of the game. You realized that your scene was big at a point, but the amount of just experience with teaching and leaders wasn't always prevalent. So for you to take the humble aspect of saying, hey, I'm going to now travel to learn from the people I consider the best, and I want to bring that same knowledge and the same teachings over back to where I'm from and help others, is really amazing. Because a lot of times with a lot of cities that are small, they tend to just want to stay closed-minded. They don't want to branch out because they're scared then, oh, if I branch out, then my students will see and they'll leave. But we also realize that when it comes to studios, students come and grow. Our roles as authority is to teach them, to show them that there is so much more to the things that we love. And then from being studio owners, then working with Alma, then working with them on a business level, and having our paths cross, it just worked in unison, because we had never met each other. We met each other in Orlando, and you saw me literally, it was like, hey, I'm here to do work. I'm here to connect with you guys. I'm focusing, let me do my videos, but I also need you guys to look at my work and see how I'm doing it, of me doing videos, and we're in the freaking kitchen, and you're like, wow, you're doing it this fast? And it's like, yeah, it's already done. Bam, it's already done.
It was like magic. So for everybody tuning in, it's magic watching these two work together. So I hope to see you guys collaborate in the future.
With a mask on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. But it was just really cool to see two people equally passionate about videography and media work together. And like, you guys would be asking each other questions and just kind of vibing it out. Like, what do you think of this? Or like, ask you like, oh, why do you do shots like this? And you would just go into detail and explain like, well, this is like the mindset behind my video. And I really want to show, like, at that time you were really prominent about just showing real social dancing, not glamorizing it, but just giving people content that was relatable. And that just really hit home for us. And we're like, that's what people need to see more of. So it was just cool seeing you guys work together in Orlando and in Mexico, because you guys like didn't have to say a lot to one another. Yeah. But you just got like these videography brainwaves where it's like, you know, what you need to do. Like I remember
you see
one
what
time,
I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
What was it called? The Salsa Olympics or something like that. And then people are like doing this Olympic event in one of those bouncy house things. And Diamond and Josh are both on opposite sides of this thing, diving in there, like getting these amazing shots.
He was diving in. I had like I had like the GoPro like on a broomstick taped to the stand. So I was trying to get like a drone view because we were for the event.
Yeah, you guys did great.
The hotel, they had the the frequencies, the signals jammed. So you weren't allowed to have drones.
Exactly. And then
So you were in there.
yeah, we had adversity hitting our way, but we made it work. And for me, it was that, I was thankful to meet people, even though they weren't from my city, to meet people that we had the same frequency, we had the same visions in mind. And like we see is that from myself, from you and Amber, that dance ultimately was a thing that we all loved, that brought us all together, and that showed that we could work together. We can have total different experiences. But when it came to dance, everything clicked. And then for me, it's like seeing the growth of you guys now being studio owners, being directors, being performers, being business savvy. I mean, it's truly like it's admirable because a lot of people aren't able to handle all of those titles. It's not easy because it's a stress that comes along. It's the responsibility of taking on all of those roles and making sure that everyone is taken care of. And from being a business person, from being a studio owner, and etc. It's a lot of times when it comes to profit, you're not always going to see that profit in the beginning. It's always the long run. And to see is that you guys have created a dance studio, and I want people to understand that the studio, dance studio, it's spelled out DAYNC.
Yes.
So it's not the regular just dance studio. And I love that because it's unique. It just shows the uniqueness about you guys. And for me, it's like I'm glad again that our paths have crossed and we can have this type of interview, because the information you guys are giving me is helping me more learn about the genuineness and the human side of you guys, and how your experiences are similar to so many's. I even see Sally Ann has a little heart with the sunflower, but it's people realizing that your stories come from the heart, and that you guys want to see growth, especially in your dancing, especially in your studio, but for the whole community. And a question that I do have is, from having the studio, what were things as owners now that you learned throughout the years?
You want to say first? There's so much.
The biggest thing is that it's being a studio owner, owning a studio throughout the years, is having empathy and compassion. Whoever comes through the door, whatever energy they give you, they first off, they came through the door because they want what you have, or at least they believe that you can do that for them. So whether it's like, I couldn't find this in your website for this, like it's clear, or like, why is this so much money, and like, why don't you have it like on Sundays, like at 2 a.m.? Why don't you have classes then? Just having empathy and compassion, because they're coming in at you. If it's not, if it doesn't appear to be open arms, they walk through that door, and just getting on their type of wavelength of communication. They're like, hey, I understand, like, we're, you do want more, and we do too, but we want to be able to deliver that quality, and we know that for sure we can do these days of the week for now, and hopefully we can add more days. And just communicating with people on a softer tone, on their terms, like what we're doing, and maybe if it doesn't help for them, like we can help them find somewhere else too. Like our goal is to help people just dance more and not just dance here only. Like we want everyone, we want people to keep going, and we tell them all the time, like, just get practice dancing. And from my point of view, like it's been the biggest thing is having empathy and compassion, but also last thing, having patience, like being very patient with people. This is more so of a people business than it is of a service or goods business, if anything, because if you're not social dancing with someone in class, but you're still like shines or whatever it may be, like it's still a people to people thing, and you got to respect that first. So empathy, compassion, and patience, that's biggest things that I've learned, that as from my point of view, for having a studio, like you need that if you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say my perspective overlaps with that a little bit. So one of the biggest things that I've taken away is work-life balance. So number one, we have each other, which is awesome because a lot of people that are in this business are alone. So people have always told us like we're so lucky to have one another, which we are. But at the same time, sometimes you wish you had more people to help. So for us, it's just been, balancing all of the hats that we're wearing. And then as the business grows, because there were a lot of times we were both doing things that we were just horrible at, but it was like, well, we're just dividing these tasks. And even though we kind of suck at these things, like it's better that we do the best that we can because we can't delegate. So I'd say that was has been actually one of the hardest things is just figuring out what are we both good at and what are we not good at and how can we, maybe support one another better if like we're doing a task that like we're not as good at, or how can we put money towards investing in people, or we do work exchanges too. So how can we be honest with ourselves and, let go of the things that we know we're not good at and stop wasting time trying to be good at everything. Because I think in the beginning of opening the studio, there was that pressure for us to feel like, we had to have everything figured out. We had to wear all of the hats. And when you're just trying to keep your doors open and figure stuff out, it just becomes overwhelming. And it's been 4 years now, but I think for us, we grew so quickly at one point that we just couldn't keep up. So at that point, it felt like pre-COVID. So I would say all of 2019, we got really busy. We had, close to 50 people in some of our Salsa bachata classes, which was great. But just the client management and being able to do that effectively and get to know everyone and take care of them and their accounts. And then just, make sure that we can be humans and still come home. Right. And, take care of one another. Like it was really messy and really frustrating. And there was a lot of, just tension and constant imbalance. So I think the biggest thing that we've learned, not only just having dance studio, but also going through COVID and, being in quarantine, is we finally had time to think about what did we not like about our lives and our business pre-COVID. And when we come out of quarantine, what were we going to do to make sure that we didn't go back there, and what promises were we going to keep that we made to ourselves and to our business to make the business better and make the work relationships stronger. So there was a lot of like just emotional things that we went through in quarantine, just trying to figure out how could we do our business better, because we never did everything perfect. When we had a dance company, we lost dancers throughout the years. Not every customer has been happy, but what I will say that we learned that we are amazing at is making people feel good when they come into the studio, like regardless of whatever stress we have going on. We have always been really good at making people feel welcome. Right. And a lot of people that come to us, they do have stress going on in their lives and they're looking to, find a release. And we always do a really good job of taking care of our people. And I think we were overly humble and not marketing that and not showing people that like, this is what we're good at. We're awesome at making you feel good. You should come here.
Right.
So one of our mentors, Elmer, he actually helped us like learn how to brag about what we're good at, because we never wanted to do that. And he helped us realize like, no, we do need to shine a light on what we're good at, because everybody else is always going to focus on what you suck at. They're already doing it for you. So, why do it to ourselves?
Why join that? Yeah.
Those have been some hard lessons that we've learned and, slowly gotten better at, and just being more open with our customers and with each other, and just, oh, we made a mistake. Okay. Like, how can we fix it? How can we learn it? And that takes humility, putting the ego aside, and takes time.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Because as studio owners, again, the customers are really the most important, because they help you grow, but they help you understand the good and the bad, and realizing that sometimes, things that you're doing as a company or as a studio either can be very beneficial or can be harmful. And it's important to listen to your customers to then, of course, you have to be humble, but at the same time, it's very good to brag about the positive. Yeah, and like you said, in the Milwaukee dance scene, there is just this been, I guess, a few studios. There aren't many. A question that I do have is when it comes to the Latin dance scene, I've heard of the hashtag MKE Salsa. Can you kind of give us some more understanding? Or is it kind of meaning that the Milwaukee scene was kind of primarily salsa, or that, because I know bachata is also around.
Right. This is with MKE Salsa, to answer your question, like the backstory on that a little bit. There's always been a public page, a like page that's like the face of Milwaukee for the land dance scene, you could say, and it's Milwaukee Salsa, and it's a neutral page where you can go and you can see like, all right, where are the socials going to be at? Where who is there a workshop coming up, or I'm going to DM them and they'll tell me, or where all of the studios are at.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been an important thing. It's a neutral thing. It doesn't really that platform doesn't promote heavily. It just puts the information out there for you to search, and we're super grateful for that, because everyone is on there. And when you think of Milwaukee, it has a heavily like salsa like community versus like bachata, where salsa, like on one, on two dancers. Like we have a rueda scene here too, like all of that. So we definitely have more of that than we do. You can see like a bachata scene here, and we have some people that have been working here for the last couple of years building up the bachata scene, especially the central bachata scene here too. So I mean, it's definitely more of a salsa community since the beginning.
Gotcha. And now that kind of trend that leads into understanding now within the 4 years you've kind of seen the progression of your studio, and then now we hit the year 2020, and now every studio, I believe, in one way or fashion, has been affected by COVID-19. Because again, and when it comes to the dance community, it really hits us so much more because our love and our passion stems from connection.
Right.
It stems from the closeness, the socialization aspect. And having a pandemic, having a disease like this, it really just kind of shuts everything down. And realizing, like you say, a lot of people's escape is dance.
Yeah.
So for the past 4 to 5 months already, that has been kind of non-existent. I've also seen, though, in other countries how it has been getting better and people have been doing events slowly. And for me, I want to kind of understand, because people have seen what New York has been through, Florida has been through, Texas, California, and etc. But how did the COVID-19 pandemic affect the Milwaukee dancing?
I had the last one. I want to talk.
Yeah. Gosh, it's kind of tricky. So I'll talk about the scene as a whole for like a minute or two, and then I'll kind of go into the studio, because we've handled it a different way, where we see ourselves as leaders in the movement through what has happened with COVID. But to the scene, like, so my birthday was March 10th. So that was pretty much the last weekend, or the weekend right after that. That was the last weekend that everybody could go out and social dance before the lockdown. And I think even that weekend that we were there, was it busy?
It was packed.
So it was
because Marcos
packed.
had something. He had the pre-party for the Chicago Salsa Bachata Festival.
That's right. So
it was busy.
So nobody really, everybody was talking about Europe at that time. So nobody was really thinking in Milwaukee about like, oh, this is our last time social dancing, or we're going to be locked down next. Everything kept changing so quickly every day. Everybody was just kind of waiting to hear like, what's going to happen? Is it going to, hit our state? Is it not? So nobody was really thinking about anything at that time. But then, the next weekend, quarantine happened and everything was basically shut down. So I think everybody just didn't see it coming, including us. We celebrated my birthday. I think we DJ'd the next weekend or something, and it was a really great time. I know even before then, for us in Wisconsin, there was a lot of snow. So the beginning of 2020 for social dancing wasn't as popular of a thing, just because the weather was kind of wonky. We had a really mild, like October through December snow, and then we got more earlier in the year. So whenever there's weird weather like that, sometimes people are kind of slow to get back into social dancing. So March is the month for our city when things should have been popping, which they were for 2 weeks. And then, that was it, and everything changed. And even right now, like, there's really nowhere that you can social dance. I guess technically at Freight 38, it's like the one bar that everybody was kind of counting on pre-COVID. It was only a Saturday night that you could dance there. but I don't even think people are really dancing there. Maybe one or two couples, but most people are not going out social dancing. Not a lot of people are even going out to classes. It's taken a lot of work on our ends just to educate the community on our safety procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh does a lot of client management, so he does an awesome job at like individually texting customers, DMing them on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
We have group pages on Facebook for those that have taken our classes, so it's easier for us to stay connected with people. So Josh does a great job of it, engaging with them during quarantine and after quarantine, just to see like how everybody's doing, where are they at, when would they be comfortable dancing. So we've had a wave of people now that are comfortable coming back, or some people that are waiting until the fall, to be honest. But it feels like our community is starting over again from scratch, because
Yes.
one place you can social dance, but nobody's ready for that. We're the only studio that has partner work classes. We have a 9-couple capacity, and you can't rotate partners. You have to find a partner and stick with them. And that was Josh's idea. So he's been like the voice of reason behind everything, and I'm kind of the one just helping market what's going on. But he did a great job just for like our business, even when quarantine happened, when we all thought it was just going to be a 15-day lockdown.
Right.
When we thought
We're like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Like Josh was brainstorming right away, like, okay, how are we going to make it through? And he was like, we're going to do online classes. So he's been really great at like pushing us to like innovate, reinvent, like what else can we do? What else can we do? So right away, within like 2 weeks, it was okay. We have online classes that are pre-recorded, and then a month later, oh, you could do that, or you could do our live classes. So he's just done a great job of paving the way for our business, being a leader in that innovation. And it's allowed dance as a brand to be on the forefront, setting the example for this, I would say, Milwaukee scene and the Midwest. We've gotten people reach out to us from other states just to see, like, what is the studio doing? Are we having classes? What are the safety precautions?
Right. Yes.
So we're one of the few studios in the Midwest you can go to for like safe partner work right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a reset. It's like it's not just turning the computer off and on. It's like it's a hard reset. But we're grateful that we had 4 years now of, you can say, practice at this business, this understanding what as facility and leaders and a community, all those experiences, and taking it and using it for like understanding, like, moving forward, what's the best decision. Now that we've had that practice, we're starting from scratch again, like she said. And I'm sure it's like that for other communities that you've been in contact with through your interviews and just through your messenger. Like, people everywhere probably feel like, all right, so day one again.
Yeah. No, I do agree, because especially me in New York, and the way it hit New York, because again, we are a densely populated city. Just like you said, in Milwaukee, you could see in that city at a point pre-corona that people were just everywhere. People did just so many events, or just the place was saturated with people. And to literally see how this pandemic has basically created a new normal for not just our dance community, but the community in a whole. Because again, this is something that literally isn't going away anytime soon.
No.
Just from me, from my wife who works in the medical field, from friends of mine who have had COVID, from watching medical physicians and their testimonies in their town halls. Again, what we're all dealing with is something that is unknown. And especially now in our community, the good thing is that we're seeing many companies, many studios like yourself, taking the initiative to say, okay, we've been presented an issue, now we need to solve it. You've been presented a problem, now we need to find a solution. Because again, we've also seen that many studios couldn't financially recover.
Right.
And some of the beloved studios that many people know in their cities had to shut down because their profitability margin went into a negative. And especially with a lot of them not getting assistance from the government, still, it's definitely put everything in a big flux. And for me, speaking to you, So y'all, it's great that we can understand that you guys do have an online marketing plan. And like you said, you also have classes now that have safety guidelines in place. Because unfortunately, too, I've been seeing, I guess, through social media, that there have been companies, or there were at one point places in Phoenix, places in Florida, throwing socials. And unfortunately, people got sick.
Yeah.
And it's been always a back and forth about their adults. And there's always so many excuses. But in reality, if you never had an event or given that platform for people to come to, a lot of these issues would have never happened.
Sure.
We realize that now this is a very trying time, and we all as a community need to learn. So, like you said, you had places in Midwest contact you, reach out to you, and say, "Hey, what is this that you're doing? What is this? Because I see it's working." Because again, it's easy for you to create something and keep it all to yourself, but
Right.
to see that people are really understanding and they love your approach to the new normal, and they want to see how it can help them, and to see you guys helping one another is great. Because when we do eventually come back into our scene in the future, it's sad is that we won't be seeing maybe some of the dancers we've seen previous, because we don't have a vaccine for this.
Right.
There's no complete answer. So again, like you said, there's people are very, very hesitant to come outside. And
Yeah.
who would want to right now go into a social with 200-300 people? And mind you, we can have all of the safety guidelines in place.
Yeah.
But all it takes is that one person.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't want to go, you don't want to be that studio that now has to explain.
Right. Yeah. Be that target. Yeah, I think just for everyone out there listening, if you're wondering, like, well, how do you come up with these guidelines, or how do you know what to do? Josh and we walk around a lot in our neighborhood, and there's a lot of like gyms and yoga studios. Yoga studios are really, really hot, I think nationwide right now, but even in our city, like every corner you turn. And so what Josh did was he was kind of looking some of their safety guidelines up on Instagram, or like if we follow them, he was kind of watching their highlights and their stories. And then when we would walk by these places, we just took pictures with our phones of their guidelines that they had, because we did not open when the Safer at Home order, that's what it was called for us in Milwaukee, when that ended, we did not open up right away. We waited a week just to see how like gyms and other businesses were opening, some that were like, and even hair salons were opening up right away. We're like,
Right.
Let's give it a week. Let's see how these people that are doing it right away are doing. And then, if the feedback's positive or if their guidelines change, let's just kind of go with what they're doing. So we just put our research together and just came up with our own guidelines. So if somebody said, oh, like you have to wear a mask, we're like, okay, we have a studio, we have check-in, so we're going to make people wear masks outside, wear masks in the lounge area when they're putting their stuff away. And then once they get on the dance floor and they're 6 feet apart, then they can take their mask off. So we just looked at all these different rules and then thought about our space, could we just directly apply it, or how do we need to alter the rule?
Right.
And it's trial and error, because you just have to see the flow of people through your space, see if people are receptive to your rules. Like not a lot of people would look at our website for the precautions, at least not in the beginning. If you're Google searching us or go to our website, you'll see the safety precautions right away. But a lot of people will just call Josh because they want to talk to a human being and like be able to ask those questions.
Please press one.
Otherwise, Josh had a couple A-frames. So an A-frame, it's just like it looks like this, it's just a double-sided like marker board or chalkboard. Josh built them and had a friend of ours like use her really awesome creative skills with some chalk markers to just put the rules on a sign in like a cartoony, friendly, fun manner to just engage with people that are outside and check like in the check-in line.
Right. What was some of the big things that we do that in terms of like social dance scene, as soon as things started opening back up, we were like, all right, what do we have that others don't have in the city for studios?
True.
We got the biggest floor. Like no one has the same size floor that we have, or bigger unless you go to the university here, but
Mhm.
that's locked up right now. So we're like, well, we can host social like partner classes and give everyone a 10-foot radius. So we'll mark the floor. We'll have people have designated, like Amber said before, you got to have your partner figured out in advance. So we're using the group page on Facebook. If you're on it for our studio, if you like not even taking classes here, but you just social dance and you're on there, like we'll host there weekly. Like, all right, classes this Friday. We got 2 couple spots for bachata. For the on 2 class, we have four spots open for leads, follows, who needs a partner, or that's been the biggest thing for us to be able to say like, all right, cool. Like you now get to connect with one more human being in this world that's passionate with this, and this is your release. This is your escape. You got to keep your mask on. You can't touch anyone else. We have people wait outside with their partner, and they enter in, and we're like, all right, cool. You're couple number 2, so you're on this spot of the floor. Your storage cubbies are on that side of the room. Now this side, everything's labeled. Don't touch anything else. And we have people go in there couple at a time. It's been like super successful. People are coming back, and people are really transparent. Like if they're not coming, they're like, I don't got a sitter. I couldn't find a partner. I don't got COVID. I didn't get it. I'll let you know. And we take temperatures every time before they enter the building. But that's been the biggest thing for us, like knowing like, all right, cool, we got the biggest floor, so we can completely fit like 9 couples. If we wanted to, maybe 12, but we're not trying to do that. So we said like, all right, so that's our advantage, but how do we benefit the community as a whole? We're going to invite all of the instructors that are like leaders in the city, come substitute for us, teach one of our classes at our studio, which we've never done before in 4 years.
Right.
Mhm.
And we, even for our socials, we've only had like two times out of all 4 years. We're like, like so-and-so and so-and-so, you guys, we would really love to rotate you guys. We can pay you. It may not be what you would get at a Congress to teach, but it's basically what we know we can afford because we only have 9 couples, but we want the community to still get community, knowing that I can get this weekly thing every Friday, and I can get Amber and Josh. I can get this couple. I can get this couple in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now.
Different styles.
And still have that community vibe, just like before when you had socials, when you had all the studios running like normal. We're like, this is the best we can do. So we got that going on, and we're gonna start rotating in a couple instructors in August. So we're really excited about that because this is no longer our studio. This is now like 100% Milwaukee studio. And every studio is Milwaukee's, like our city studio. So we're trying our best to put our preferences, our differences aside, and we're like, if you have something to contribute, let's connect and let's all put it together for the community.
Absolutely. And I would say from the beginning of the end to this discussion, you guys truly are an example of the community, of what a community is about. Because coming from the beginnings of you both being interested in dance, to then finding a love and passion for it, for then choosing to be a part of companies, to be a part of the performing aspect, the business aspect, to becoming studio owners and directors, to becoming influencers in your community itself, if you knowing or not. It just shows that you guys were in it from the long haul and you had that determination. And for me, it's like, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to even have you on this platform because so many other studio owners can learn so much, and at least this was a great ending to our discussion, especially talking about COVID, because it is a very touchy subject and it's a real subject because everyone is going through this, and definitely, at least before we do go, I would love for you guys to just give out your contact information, but also, give some last few words for myself and the audience.
You guys can reach us on Facebook, Instagram. Like we reply same day, like most of the time within like an hour, in just DMs. And one thing that I want to say was that to anyone who's a teacher, anyone who's a private lesson instructor, or they own a studio, we would love to connect with you. We would love to like jump online and like just have a video chat with you and see if we can help you out. and just share what we've already been practicing and learning, to hopefully ignite again what you're doing in your own city and in the global community for this.
Yeah, for sure. We can connect with anyone on like a private level. We have our personal like Instagrams linked to Dance Studio, but it's easier if you reach out to Dance Studio's Facebook or Instagram page. That way we both get the notification. Get back to you guys. I would say the biggest thing is if anyone needs any help for marketing advice, like one of the biggest things I want to say is that whether you're just, a dancer and you just want to keep sharing what you're doing, or teacher, studio owner, I think the biggest thing that we can all do to contribute to the success of dance in general is to keep inspiring ourselves and others. And what I mean by that is just keep doing you, keep dancing, or maybe if there's another style that you've been wanting to explore, don't be afraid of online classes. There really is some beauty with coronavirus, going on right now, that there are maybe some artists in LA or Europe that were teaching so much that they never had an online platform. And now they have an online platform and you can train from them whenever you want. And a lot of these classes are super affordable and much cheaper than your airfare and your hotel and going to these studios in person. So while it's not ideal, there is more opportunity for training and for sharing. And so I would just hope that everybody, now more than ever, to keep yourself relevant during these trying times is just to share more content with your dance journey and just explore other styles or other genres. And that's how we're all gonna, grow and come out of this just feeling nourished and just like mentally healthy, because it is a hard time. So
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are some amazing dancers, but most of all, you guys are amazing human beings. And I'm glad at least we could have this discussion, but having these talks with people I consider friends is amazing. And at least before we go, we have a comment here, a gentleman named Wade Anding, saying you do a stellar job at creating community. And that shows is that, from us having this discussion, from people who know you, but from your community telling you that, it's showing that you guys are doing the right thing at the right time. Because now we're under, everyone is dealing with this, but to see how you guys are going about it respectfully and having a mutual respect for the people in your community and doing it the right way and the safe way is really amazing to see. And it shows that people do care. And like I tell a lot of my guests, this is the first interview, but it surely won't be the last. I thank you guys again so much for being on this discussion platform. And I've learned so much about you. I'm just taking and soaking in all this knowledge for myself in the future. And I definitely hope at least when everything is better, we can all reunite and just embrace. And I really appreciate all of the knowledge you've given myself and the audience.
Thank you so much for having us, Simon. It was really an honor.
You're doing an amazing job for the communities, being consistent and being neutral and just capturing stories. Like I think everyone's looking for like the famous people, and they all started somewhere. And I just love that you're taking on all these different stories and putting it out there.
I thank you, because it is important that we know, just because people can know people from teaching classes worldwide, there's so much more to our community than just the large figures. Everyone in my eyes is important, but everyone in my eyes has a voice and has a story. And to hear both of y'all's story and to see where it started from and where it is presently, and to see what you guys are doing for the future of our scene and the future of Milwaukee is admirable. And I would recommend anyone who really wants to know more information on how to better run their studio during these times, please definitely reach out to Joshua and Amber from Dance Studio. And again, I thank you guys for a wonderful discussion. This is the first and it won't be the last. And again, I hope you guys stay safe out there, and until we meet again.
Yes, thank you so much, Diamond. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll be back.
Bye, guys.
Bye.